Harry, good evening to you, Harry.
Good evening, neighbor. Good evening, everybody.
Trust you are doing well, sir.
Oh yeah, I am.
Yeah. Harry, how should we interpret Horton's critique? An inside testimony, personal grievance, or a broader institutional diagnosis? How would you see it?
Well, looking at it in terms of from an objective standpoint, neighbor, I think it's a more of a revelation of the latter, where it's actually bringing, the systematic failures um, from a political party that wants to be government. And I think that is something I know would have gone through Melissa, and it highlighted a lot of systems in government overall. But it also, this is like a blow to that in the sense where it's also highlighting that, listen, internally, they are not in alignment with what they say for the people, and as such they themselves are actually misleading not just those who are they speak to, their 400,000 or 401,000, but also they're covering up and being a bunch of hypocrites. So they're hypocritical in how they've always governed Jamaica when they're in power. And I think Andre Horton's statement highlighted that. It placed a lot of evidence at the feet of the opposition, and also for those who would have represented for the People's National Party in the past. They themselves now owe the people of Jamaica not just an apology, but to come back and do the work in terms of to try and help recover and show some form of reconciliation. And these persons which I speak of are the Omar Davis of the Times, the PJ Pattersons, and all those other persons, because this ideology in the party is not something that just came about a year ago or a decade ago. It has been something that's embedded in them for far too long. And as such, they would have always governed. So when we highlight the mismanagement of a country and its resources and its people, all along, what we've been shedding light on is the overarching evidence that we're seeing. But then Andre Horton from the inside would have just exposed why those are the results. They've been always governing for themselves, and that brings the they say what happened in the dark must come to the light. That is exactly what would have happened.
Let me take you to leadership, Harry. To what extent is Mark Holding responsible for the current state of the party?
I think for him, neighbor, being that, well, let me put it this way: he's the man at the helm, and as such, whatever transgressions happen, whatever transpires in the party, has to be laid on his shoulders, right? Even if he is unaware, because if you are the leader of something and an institution, for the very most part, you are required to know the exact information and all that is happening. When that happens now, you will be held accountable, and as such, it is your duty bound to know. So the major thing about it as well is that he himself, neighbor, doesn't have the right to push it off to anybody. He doesn't have the right to sidestep it, because he would have also been a part of the persons over time that have not only benefited from a system and an ideology like this, but also maintained it, right? Whether that may be financially and with him now in leadership, right?
Yes.
Doesn't matter what part of the stakeholdership he was and is, right? He would have ensured that this didn't just be been made, but ensured it bared fruits for the specific people, which are I want to say the Tapanaris, right? And as such, he has now hold firm to that as the leader, which means he would have gone through phases or the life stages of this ideology. So from potentially funding it to being what we call, angel investors for it, then he came up in the politics to ensure that there was some succession or a successor of it, to now being the one who has hold it together. Because if you look at him bragging at the 100,000 people that, voters that he claimed they would have gotten back, that is him putting, I don't want to say damage control, but that is him recovering and ensure that the ideology stays strong and healthy. And he consistently preaches to that ideology just the same to ensure that it never changes. So for him, all of it will be laid solely at his feet, and rightly so, because as the leader, you must have some form of control, some form of influence. I know he has the affluence, I don't have to worry about that part, but you have to be able to have some form of change. You can initiate that. Case in point, we saw how the political arena in Jamaica was, and we then saw a young Andrew Holness come to the forefront. And as such, the things we would have known about the Jamaica Labour Party has gradually changed, coined, and grown into a different style of politics. It's not a tit for tat. The party does not run down everything that is being said, right? It is more polished. It is more poised in terms of we will attack what needs to be attacked at the specific time. And as such, we see where the change, a regime change, has been done on the political party over the last decade. Mark Golding has been in the leadership role for 5 years, and there's no movement to try and change it. There's no initiative. In fact, it is just ensure that he repairs the damage to the ideology and now rev it back up. So with him, their neighbor, it is one in which he's not looking to change it, and he has blatantly, time and time again, come and said it to the people. But not when you look at it, the media houses who should be, doubling down and try to get clarity to also expose the inconsistencies, they don't do that. And as such, it is left up to persons like us to know, not just ask the questions, but double down on it and expose it for what it is. So being viewed from the political standpoint, and really and truly what the People's National Party think of them.
Yeah. Is this a leadership issue? A structural issue within the party? How do you separate those three, leadership versus culture? Would you think a different leader would make things different at this time?
The truth about it is that the leader at this moment really and truly does not hold the great influence to change it. Here's why. You have always heard me say, we shape society as society shapes us. Now, if you bring that to a group, right, what you get is, what are the morals? What are the ethics? What are those things, values that shapes the party, that the party lives by? Now, that is formed years, right, and refined. And then when you get a leader that grows up in that environment, that same morals, values, ethics, which is a culture, shapes that incoming leader. And as such, that is the case with Mark Golding as well. He would have been able to affect in this in the 80s, 90s coming up from a financial standpoint. But what would have happened over time for him being a part of the group, he would have now conformed to those ethics, morals, values, and the culture that was developed. Hence, that culture now shapes him. And as such, he cannot afford to go against that culture because he would have already been fully influenced. And as such, he doesn't have the capacity and the character to even step out of it. Because what? There's also a level of self-interest to protect. And his self-interest is to lead the party, and his selfish aspiration is to try and become Jamaica's prime minister, which is still left up to be seen. So that is a cultural part of it, because we know it is, and we've had enough evidence to say and to highlight what the culture of the People's National Party is. It is also one, they are structured to ensure that anybody challenges the status quo and the culture that is there, they are, in Andre Horton's word, they are a target.
Yes.
Right? They are ostracized and kicked to the wayside.
Yes.
So, from the structural standpoint, you cannot come in and challenge that structure. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in a decade long gone after a time, I guess when he came to his senses, he realized that the structure of the People's National Party was not what it was set out to be. And as such, he left.
Yes.
Because he could not have stayed. And I used both those examples for two extreme time frames to highlight to the people that the People's National Party have a structure that outlives and stays stronger than any of its members and or its leaders. It is fixed. It is not variable. Nobody comes in and changes that. It's not surprising why we hear the People's National Party surrogates and followers keep mentioning, oh, manly this, manly that. That is the indoctrination of a structure that came from that time, which they don't want to change. And they themselves know there's no revolution to change it. In my perspective, that structure has to die a natural death. And how it dies a natural death is over time. No one person in that party can change that structure.
Yes.
It will never happen. But we know as time passes, changes are inevitable. And I can use the change of the country to show that in its politics. Remember, we saw the tit for tat kind of behavior when it comes on to elections and it comes on to different aspects of politics. We no longer saw that. For example, when Andrew Holness came to the fray, we didn't expect this type of politics. But it slowly changed, and that gradual change, neighbor, almost came seamless that we didn't really see it because we were going through it as well.
Yes.
We were changed in terms of what we're demanding. The things we're also commanding from our leaders was also changing over time. And as such, those who are living it will not outright see the change. But I can tell you, a different generation, when they look at it, they're going to see it. Just like how we can identify the change, that gradual change. No, that's the structure. Now, when the structure changes, neighbor, while that change is happening, whosoever leads or end up being selective, because if it's one thing, nature is going to be very selective. And as such, based on the aspirations and the standards and the morals, the culture that is changing as well, there comes a leader of that change that identifies with that change. He may not be outright the leader that they may think he is. Case in point again, Andrew Holness. Call it Andrew, call it. We remember those words keenly. And Portia Simpson Miller did beat him in that election. Youthful exuberance. But that is a change we never saw. We didn't expect that this was the man that was going to help us change our politics, change our perspective on it, bring a different generation to the forefront, to be involved, right? To be heard, to be seen, to be a part of, and to influence their very lives going forward. That was a dying thing, especially for young people. It is the same thing that will happen when this ideology dies the natural death of the People's National Party. A leader that will embody those changes. Even that leader may not see himself as the leader initially, but once he or she steps to accept it, you will see a leadership change. So that is how all three for me, neighbor, comes in and ties in. But we will not see a cultural change or a structural change until this ideology dies a natural death, because ideologies do die, neighbor, right? Nothing lasts forever. We know that it may outlive you and I and some of our listeners, but I can tell you change is inevitable and it will come, especially with the fact that after a period of being aggressive and wanting power, being hungry, right? You then now get weary. You're burnt out because you can no longer fight the fight that is being changed. You have to now adapt. So you still want the power, I know, but you've been laboring in one way for far too long, and as such, you then come to your senses. Time does that to people. Time does that to institutions, right? And the People's National Party is no different. Now, the question is, how long will they wait before they undergo that change? That is up to them. But I can tell you the people of Jamaica will continue to move forward without them.
Yeah, there is something personally disappointing, maybe even insulting, is this whole matter of subject. You know, Harry, on this program, we have heard this kind of thinking coming from some of our callers, protecting Joshua, connecting, that the people of Jamaica are not really seen as people of value, but in Dr. Horton's words, subject. How does that make you feel personally, Harry? And could you help me to understand why would 2026 someone coming out of the party comes out with that type of feeling that the people of Jamaica are not really important to the PNP? Isn't that disappointing personally for you?
Well, for me, it is, neighbor.
Yes.
And I take it as a great disrespect, not to just me, but to be a Jamaican.
Yes.
Right? To know that there are persons out there that have devalued themselves, and this is how I'm going to tie it in. That 401,913 persons have devalued their worth, which then impacts me after they go to the polls and choose wrongfully, right? And it is that consensus, whether it's cult-like indoctrination or not, right? But that in itself, let me look in terms of my self-worth to say, why do I have those people devaluing themselves, and is reflecting it to me as a Jamaican citizen, right? Because once a group does it of that magnitude in a neighbor, in that number, it is hard for people looking out to say to not say all Jamaicans. It is easy for them to just group everybody and say we don't worth it.
Do you think the supporters look at it like this? Do you think that they are aware, or they don't care?
Well, here's the thing with it, neighbor, right? There are persons who sees it but doesn't want to challenge it. So there are tiers. Those who see it benefits at some point in time, right? There are also another tier who clings to it to think that eventually, over time, whether work and whatever actions they take for the party will view them as valuable eventually. That hopeless thing, right? In fact, it has a little Stockholm syndrome kind of thing to it for a lot of them in that tier, right? They've fallen in love with it, not realizing that they've lost their self-worth. They've given away their freedom and self-worth. Their right to think and a right for choice. And then there are others, neighbor, who genuinely have been misled because they have either idolized an individual, idolized the institution based on what they would have grown to hear. They've not challenged what they've heard, right? And that is a dangerous thing. You have, and you spoke about it, those who knows not that they knows not, right? That is a very dangerous set of people because it simply means they are ignorant and don't know that they are, but they make decisions, and those decisions don't just affect their lives, it affects ours as well. It affects those who are coming after us too. And as such, the value that they've dropped the standard and refused to pick it back up hurts everyone around them. And as such, that's why Andre Horton could highlight that the People's National Party truly doesn't show value. And I have a personal one to that, neighbor, right? My father, the reason he has never voted for the People's National Party, but in his brief youthful years, he was, youthful exuberance. You like the little hype and all of that, so you go around. And he had his only vehicle at the time. I don't remember what type of vehicle, but he would have loaned it to Manley. Well, he gave it to DK Duncan at the time. And then Manley was the one who was, moving around because they were switching vehicles a lot in that time. And after the election, neighbor, they looked at him and asked, "Who are you again?" That, for me, neighbor, made this political thing personal. Because I will always ensure that I give no politician, I give no representation, right? I give no representative that power over my life. And that was the nail in the coffin for him, because he has never been disrespected until that day. And he took his keys to that vehicle. He never drove it again. He sold it. And he never, ever wanted to hear about the People's National Party again. In fact, neighbor, growing up, when there was budget debates and so on TV, if any People's National Party person is speaking, the TV lock off. All when me well want to know what's happening. That is the level that people have to fight and ensure that they protect their value. That was a man who understood his value. Initially, he misplaced it. But the moment he got a hint as to the disrespect and how they saw him, he ensured he never gave them that choice again, right? And as such, with what Andre Horton has put out, I'm going to say to the 401,913 people, check yourselves, because you certainly are wrecking yourselves, right? That is not something in this modern day and age you want to be hearing from somebody you're giving influence over yourself. Somebody who you're putting your trust and having them being responsible for you.
Making decisions for you.
Exactly. That is not a set of people you want to give up so much power. And this is the thing, people don't understand what happens when you go to the polls. It is high and nice when you're on the trail and whatever. But when you go and mark that X, where you mark it speaks volumes as to how you value yourself, how you value your country, and what you truly want for your nation. And if you can't see those three things when you're going to the polls, my personal belief is that you should never have a vote, right? And that's a hill I'll stand on, right? Because you cannot be making decisions on things that will last not just 5 years. Neighbor, we saw what 18 and a half years can do to a nation, almost irreparable.
Why?
Right? We're struggling almost 3 decades later to be stable, right? To correct the wrongs that we didn't do.
Yes, sir.
But those who don't know that they didn't know made decisions.
Yes. Wow, fantastic. Eh?
And it shows, neighbor, it shows to the core. So it doesn't matter your age. I'm going to say this for the listeners. It doesn't matter your age. You have a brain, you can use it. This is the age where technology has been the most advanced. Access to information is right there. Don't devalue yourselves. Don't give up the power over your lives to people who don't see the value in you, right? And under Horton, for me, that speech or that statement he made should be running through every single week going to the next
Right?
election.
Oh my God.
And I think if the Jamaica Labour Party is listening and so on, put it in the catalog, work on it. AI can help you to easily generate a lot of things that you may need. That's an
What a fantastic. Yes, Harry, hold on there. I don't want to cut you, but you have made a point that is so fundamental. And you know, Harry, by the way, let me say good evening to my listeners over there on YouTube. 91 people watching on YouTube. Good evening to you all. Please feel free to join the chat and welcome to the Hello Neighbor show. It's great to have you on TikTok. Please like and subscribe and keep the chat active. Okay. Keep the chat active. The point, Harry, is that we're a country where we talk about 9-day wonders, and so ever so often a story breaks, ever so often one story drops the other off the headline. But this requires deep thought and analysis that continues, not true, sir?
It definitely does. And I'm watching mainstream media closely on this, neighbor, very closely, because this in itself will also, for me, this is my thought, my perspective. So it's not even hello neighbor and politics plus perspective. This is mine.
Yes.
This will also, if it doesn't get the deserved airtime, if it doesn't get the attention that it garners from the mainstream media, then it also speaks to the people as to what mainstream media thinks of them.
Wow.
Because
saying that you think that mainstream media must pick this up and have it discussed.
They have to. It is against journalism to not explore this.
Yes.
Right? Because you don't get a professor of the University of the West Indies,
yes,
to come out and make a statement like that, right? Because I'm going to show you the contrast and the comparison here. Wow. When Professor Horton went ahead and agreed with the tax package, they ran with it. It is the same Professor Horton that came and also made this statement about the People's National Party, and not even publishing has been done. Not even at the back page of the Gleaner or the Observer or whichever one it has made to. None. And that for me concretizes what mainstream media, and I'm saying mainstream media because I won't single out anybody. Somebody must pick it up and eventually and speak. But until then, mainstream media thinks not far from the People's National Party about its very people that it should be serving as well. Because it is a level of academia, and I always say journalism is an art, and that art is dying. Now, it shows that one, mainstream media has a political agenda to cover for who they want. They also, two, because neighbor, this can be a big soundbite and clickbait for the mainstream media, but they don't see it as such, right? Because they're protecting, and they have that agenda to protect who they need to, right? They don't want to expose it. But that is what we're up against as well. And you've heard me speak of, social media is a disruptive technology. And it is going to give mainstream media a continuous run for their money until they get with the program and do right by the people. Give the people proper journalism again.
My God. why I tell you it is monumental what Horton has revealed. Let me move you up a little though, Harry. What are the lessons from this for the Jamaica Labour Party? Are there any insights that you have in terms of how the Jamaica Labour Party should see this and evaluate what Horton has said?
Well, the main thing about it is that Andre Horton has just loaded the gun for the next election for the Jamaica Labour Party. And I do hope and pray that they use it out of their arsenal, right? Because it has to be a reminder to the people of Jamaica before they go to the polls. Don't wait until the election is called
that they are subject to the PNP.
Exactly. In fact, the next biggest stage, right, that I believe that this can be echoed is the Jamaica Labour Party's annual, what was it again? Their conference.
Conference?
Right. You have no bigger stage leading up to the elections. You have what, 4 or 5 of them to come? Use it. Don't let it die. Because this is something you can keep at the forefront and force the People's National Party to change. That's one. 2, you put them in a corner where Jamaica people remember. This should not be a 9-day talk. We learn through repetition and to remember things, neighbor. This is something you have to remind the people, at least in one of the biggest forum for the year. And the Jamaica Labour Party should take that apart.
Bring this to conference.
Of course. Neighbor, up to this very day, we're here, the sound bites of I'm not afraid of no boy, no girl, whatever, with Miss Simpson Miller. Right?
Yes.
We heard of Pickers Gill, this is chicken feed. This has the same or more in terms of a revelation for the people than any of those. Those were just for fun. This is for academia. This is for the intellects. This is for the very man. This is down to the man who push and cat downtown. He should never forget that. And those 20-year-olds, which your budget was speaking to, who will be 21, who will be 25, 26, and so on, coming the next election, remind them as to what the People's National Party think of them. Because Andre Horton is not an old person. He's a young man. And he himself has seen it for what it is. And this is what you do, neighbor. And this is not putting a target on Mr. Horton's back in the sense where I believe every university student that sees Mr. Horton on a Monday, Wednesday, I believe that's where his classes are, they're about, in that lecture room, we used to call it SSL, because he teaches economics, right? That's the one of the biggest auditoriums there is at the university that he teaches. Minimum 250 students.
Wow.
All those persons, when they see him at the university, should remember that statement. So you have to echo it from now. Don't wait until they have to come out of the lecture room. They will see him twice per day for 3 to 4 years. And that is how you remind the people of Jamaica and you remind a generation that will help decide the next election. That is something the Jamaica Labour Party should be looking at. And that is free advice coming from Hello Neighbor Podcast and Harry with Carolina and Scratchy and everybody else.
Yeah, sure, free.
I'm sure free.
Hold on there for me, my brother. John Walker, good evening to you. Hello? Hello, Walker? Is he there? No, not there. Good evening to you, John. Hello? No. All right, let's listen again to what Mr. Horton says.
I be a power-hungry people me go around, so everybody want to be the leader. You understand what I mean? Because them have it as a leader-centric party. So it's not a round table where you know, say, all right, I'm a specialist in that, I'm a specialist in that, I'm a specialist in that. So everybody, no, you go, everybody dictate to you what them feel, say, if you go, or how them feel, say, if you go. And if you not take it, the particular premise that they hold, you have your own premise, it creates a problem between you and them. But what I recognize, especially in my party that I join, is not a loving environment where
Imagine that, Harry. It's not a loving environment.
And you see the thing about it, neighbor, and this is the second point regarding it as well. The next set of persons leaving that university, right, will help shape not just the production and product. And as such, what you do with statements like this and reminding them about it is to ensure that they don't buy into the delusion elect will be able to transform anything over the People's National Party. You stop wasting their time.
Don't join it at all.
To echo this throughout society. And if the JLP bloggers are listening, this is your job.
Well, hold on. You want me to send the tape to you?
You can.
By the way, before you move on, you have a comment on that?
Neighbor, at this space, I've heard a lot of persons discussing, that specific topic, and I just couldn't get it because I don't even have enough information to much less utter my mouth and speak up.
Keep on your mouth.
Yeah. All right.
Keep on your mouth. But you are saying that you are giving them some advice. Go ahead.
I am. With a statement like this,
yes,
I know a lot of persons come and they'll go live every day, every other day, or whatever it is. It's just like how you can start your live with the Jamaica Labour Party anthem and so on.
Yes.
Start you with this statement. Let it
just
echo across.
Play it every time.
Play it right across. Right through. Right? Let it be something you're reminding the people of Jamaica, your target audience, and those who you aren't even targeting. Let the algorithm does the work for you with this. Because this is not a statement to be taken lightly. This is a professor, one of the highest levels when it comes to academia that you can get to. This is the person who was fought for years and got that position, and rightly so, as a scholar. You don't take it with a grain of salt. It is exactly
this is not a man downtown. This is not a man. No.
This is a
respected, intelligent man that is shaping minds in our country,
Exactly. This is a man that has sat in the upper house of Jamaica, right? And as such, you need to ensure that you don't fall and drop the standard. This man has let the people know exactly what the alternative, quote-unquote, government thinks of them, how they operate, and to outrightly say it doesn't matter how high you climb in the ladder, you are not welcome here unless you drink the same Kool-Aid and buy into the delusion of that culture and structure that has been institutionalized, right? So when you do this, you don't only make it easier for people to remember and to go through and then make a proper decision. You force a regime change in the People's National Party, because I can tell you this, they can't take much more pressure because there's an internal, when there's something is churning up inside, neighbor,
it's a build.
It is building, and as such, right now, what is happening with the People's National Party, whether it is with the risers and the funders and the members there, it's a ticking time bomb. And if not diffused, 2020, what we saw in 2020 is going to be just a mere imagination. It's going to be worse than that. to how the party fell apart in 2020.
Wow.
Right? This will be worse. And it's a warning to them, because I also believe strongly in our democratic process. And I also want to see a sensible, because right now it's not even viable.
But not this one, sir. Not this one.
No, it at some point in time, you have to change. I don't plan to leave anytime soon, neighbor.
Yes.
But I would love to see them become viable. But right now I'm asking for them to be sensible.
Yeah, but as an intellectual yourself, Harry, a graduate of the university, aren't you not disappointed that an institution you are being told that an institution is so bankrupt that you can't go in there and share your thoughts, that which you have learned to advance the institution? Would you be a part of such an institution that you can't even say a word, you can't disagree?
No, neighbor, I would never. The thing about me, and I can be a very strong character at times. Anybody, one day when you come to work, you can ask them. But once I know, so you see how Professor Horton speak to say, hey, he did numbers, he knows what is what, and then somebody who didn't even attempt.
Yeah, he basically called them idiot.
Exactly, but I will not. I'll always find other ways to get somebody to come to a certain level. But for me, is if I do the work, I have the numbers, I have the information, and I decipher it and I put it out. And then you're going to challenge me with an emotional statement, with something that you think but you don't have any knowledge on. Then I'm now going to be forced to ensure that you're seen as the person you want to be seen. Whether you want to be seen as an idiot, whether you want to be seen as ignorant and uninformed, that is up to you. And as such, for me, if I'm in an institution and the moment I see that as a part of a culture, I'll do two things. I'll challenge it once, just once. And if I get a level of pushback that makes no sense, then I walk. That is my second action. Because I don't believe I should be, speaking with adults, speaking with people who should be making decisions for an institution that would advance other people, and or speaking to somebody, let's say in the political arena, that has the responsibility to move the country forward. And you're going to put self-interest, one. You're going to also ensure that you put the party first, two. And then three, you don't care about the people who ensures that they put you back in the position. It means that you've not even neglected them. You just don't outright care. The only thing that says to me, and this has been shown right across, when you hear people say they only see the politician when election come,
yes,
this speaks. That is not something that came out of the time when, for example, Edward Seaga used to was in politics and so on, right? That was born and bred in the 18 and a half years that the People's National Party served Jamaica. That was a cultural shift in the minds of the people to say, only 4 or 5 years later, I'm going to see politicians, so let me get something now. That is how it started. Andre Horton just made a statement. It sounds simple. But as we analyze it and dig deeper, we see the opposition for what they were in government and what they are now. There's no change. It's just a power shift that they're now on the other side. Right? And as such, for me, I will not stay in an institution like that, neighbor. Something like that is beneath me, because if I can't add value, because anywhere I go and whatever I do, I want to be able to add value or leave a long-lasting impression that helps someone. I'm always that person who is inclusive, right? For the most part. But if I can't do that, then I know my interest is no longer my value is not worth here. Also, my energy, my contribution will fall on deaf ears. And I never ever want to be contributing to something like I'm speaking to a wall, right? It just dropping in front of me. That's waste of my time, energy, and resource. I'll move on.
Yes. Well, let's listen a little bit more of Horton and you comment on it.
Where people see you as a prodigy and see you and help to provide a foundation to uplift you. If they see you as a prodigy, no push.
It's a thing where you become a target.
Yes. So to them, the last time Andre was a senator, he said this, he said that. So he made them pray. And I say, you don't know if you play ball as a team player. You understand what I mean?
Whereas
even when the team are the
different.
nonsense, you know more on the team, you must know subject your moral understanding, your calculation. For idiot, we not calculate nothing.
So, Harry, at times what he's saying is that what is being presented to the public is not well researched.
Yeah, but we've seen that. We
Yes.
the last budget highlighted that for sure, right?
Yes.
And and this is not me laughing in terms of to be disrespectful, but it is true.
Uh-huh.
We heard, the budget debate was there, and after hearing it a little bit over an hour, we could have deciphered and saw the level of ignorance when it comes on to applicability and implementation. And I think this is one of the things, neighbor, why I don't think people should have questioned why I was so critical of the opposition in that budget debate.
You mean when you gave him 9.5? 9.5 out of 100. Oh boy. Yeah.
Neighbor, because the truth about it is that
9.5.
It even highlighted the fact that Mark Golding and Julian Robinson was not on the same team, evidently, in that budget debate. Because, again, reiterate, Mark Golding says he can find $77 billion in the budget just by compliance. But
Yes.
his finance minister is saying we would need to borrow from BOG and also borrow further money. So, who is playing ball where? Is it that one is playing defense and one is going attack? It shows a level of confusion in that manner. But my thing, neighbor, because I play sports and I'm a part of a team when I'm at work. And everybody has to be not just pulling their weight when it comes down to creativity, innovation, and so on. But
Yes.
we all have to have the overarching goal. And then we break that down into subsets and things that we will do. And as we achieve those sub goals, it ties into the larger goal. That is how you be a team player.
Yes.
Right? It can't be that you look at it and the team is failing. And this is not to say you're a star player. But you realize that there's something in terms of with the team, its functionality is off. Right? Its chemistry is off. And you step in that dressing room and you can't influence that chemistry. You can't help them be a little bit more functional. Right? What you suggest, they see that they're failing. And in looking at I don't even want to say they look at it, but in hearing your suggestion, they don't explore it, They're going to continue to do the same thing that has gotten them the same failing results. It doesn't cost you to explore something that somebody who has thought about it, who have brought the empirical evidence. It doesn't hurt to try that way. And as such, for me, I can't be a part of a team that does not exercise that level of freedom for change to achieve the goal. That is how I'm framing it. You have to have the freedom to change to then achieve the goal. And if that takes one man or woman, if it takes one person to see and can bring that revelation to reality, then you get on board. Because then that saves you from being a dysfunctional team. a team that is not viable, a team that is not worth even getting a match against, a team that has been devaluing themselves because they're arrogant and refuse to listen to a technocrat or somebody who does the research, all because that person who makes a suggestion and brings the information and facts is not like the rest on the team. So they rather to fail because the person or persons who make a suggestion and let me put it, a recommendation does not look like them, does not speak like them, and does not drink the same Kool-Aid of delusion as them. They will rather die failing, doing the same thing over and over. And that is the cultural and structural failure that Andre Horton is highlighting in the People's National Party. That same party who wants to come up and act as if they are a united front to fool the people of Jamaica. They have 4 to 5 more years to form a fool of themselves or get it right.
Is that we see a Jamaica Labour Party governing, delivering for the Jamaican people. And we see a Prime Minister, Jill Clark, people like Orbin Hill, people like Dana Morris Dixon, other young, bright people. Is there some turn? They seem more open to ideas, to people sharing their views and things like that. Is this why they
Or part of the party under the Andrew Holness-led administration, right? If you look at it, they've taken persons, sectors in the diaspora and on the international scale, because I separate international from the diaspora, right? They are able to, right? When you have a melting pot neighbor, you know, you have boiled soup, so you have to put in different things because, you know, the potato everything brings something different to achieve the goal. The goal is to ensure that the soup tastes good, it's nourishing, and examples of persons can follow. That is what on Dr. Holness did and continues to do in terms of how it's done. These persons are from different walks of life. They have different experiences throughout the world with different countries. And people from the diaspora to teach, to bring in new experiences, to bring in new skill sets, to help us advance. That is the take for them to have good succession planning, putting people from different areas and let them be good at what they do. Let them bring that to government. It is very critical to how, you know, this term, specifically this term, I believe they're going to have around 9 to 10 persons leading. This is running a country. What we've seen with the People's National Party, for example, is that you have persons leave, but there's no, right? When you look at how they're putting their team together. With the Jamaica Labour Party, you saw the difference. Case in point,
Aldrich Shaw was good at what he did. You've seen different in terms of what they bring to the table. And that is how you put a team together. And you then, when you have this team, that's Tottenham's word. It attracts prodigies who sees this person and want to learn from them. Not necessarily just following their footsteps, but to learn as much, do it. I can say the same for the People's National Party who wants to be, who is currently the alternative government at this point in time. And it speaks not just to their recruits understand this. The leader is the face. It's the first impression they'll have of the party is from the leader. You're going to have a warm time getting them to be attracted to what you have to offer. If you look at Andrew Holness and the Jamaica Labour Party, that's a team that will attract, right? They're actually somebody who they want to aspire to. And that is critical as to how you ensure you move your country